11 years ago, I was starring in a new play in this theatre in the West End. After just 3 performances, I walked out. In the early hours of the next morning, I came down from my flat in central London to this lane. I went into my garage, sealed the door with a duvet I brought, and got into my car.
Sat there for at least, I think, 2 hours in the car, my hands on the ignition key. It was a suicide attempt, not a cry for help.
I drove to the south coast and took a ferry to Europe.
I just knew I couldn't be at home, I couldn't be in London, I couldn't be in England. I really believed that I would never come back to England. Runaway Stephen Fry broke his silence last night to reveal the torture he's been suffering. They all are worried that I've committed suicide. That's the awful thing.
But after a week, I secretly returned to England to this hospital and to a doctor telling me that I was bipolar. I'd never heard the word before, but for the first time, at the age of 37, I had a diagnosis that explained the massive highs and miserable lows I've lived with all my life.
There's no doubt that I do have extremes of mood that are greater than just about anybody else I know.
The psychiatrist in the hospital recommended I take a long break. I came here to America, and for months I saw a therapist and walked up and down this beach. My mind was full of questions. Am I now mad? How have I got this illness? Could it have been prevented? Can I be cured of it? Since then, I've discovered just how serious it is to have bipolarity, or manic depression, as it's also called. 4 million others in the UK have it, and many of the seriously ill end up killing themselves. So I've decided to speak out about my mental illness, and it is a mental illness. I want to talk to others who have it about what triggered it in them and how it took over their lives. And I want to find out answers to what still worries me. Was I diagnosed correctly? And am I getting better or worse? Let's start with a remark made by a Hollywood producer to me. You don't need to be gay or Jewish to get on here, just bipolar. He meant, of course, larger than life, furiously energetic, endlessly creative. Manic types do well in Hollywood, in all of show business for that matter. Euphoric highs and crippling lows seem to go with the territory and don't attract the stigma found everywhere else. Since my own diagnosis, I've kept working and found ways to cope. And I've also kept quiet about my condition. Now I want to speak out, to fight the stigma, and to give a clearer picture of a mental illness most people know little about.
Visiting my old friend Carrie Fisher, known to the world as Princess Leia in the Star Wars movies, but she's on the edge of sanity. She's, constantly, not mad enough to be committed, but not sane enough to lead much of a normal life.
When you're galloping along at a great speed, it is better than any drug that you could ever take. God, if you will, is saving you parking spots. Songs are being played on the radio for you. You're just so enthusiastic about everyone. And everyone must be enthusiastic about you. And it's just, come along. I've got a great idea. I've got this unbelievable idea. Let's go to India.
Exactly.
Then you'll just start going way too fast.
Yeah.
And you're faster than anyone that you're around, and that's not fun. You're on the phone far too long. You're not getting any sleep. Nothing is going fast enough for you. Come on, keep up with me, you guys, come on. And even if it's not true that you're more talented when you're manic, you feel like you are.
Yeah, which is half the battle.
I am standing on rocks, flaming speeches to the world. You know, I have a lot to say. I have messages from deep space, in fact. And I stayed awake for 6 days, and I did lose my mind. This friend of mine says to me, "Does your doctor know that you behave this way?" What do you mean? Then we sort of have an argument, and I cry for 4 hours, and I'm unable to stop. And I know there's something wrong with that. I call this doctor, and I go in, and I see her. You know, we're talking, and I'm laughing, and I'm spinning around in chairs. And the doctor says,
That's the diagnosis. That's bipolar. That's manic depression.
Carrie had years of living with such extreme moods and feelings before she got that diagnosis.
She's got it bad, you know. It's not a rock star, film star accessory. It's a real mental condition that she has to live with every single day of her life. She's on medication. You have to picture what she'd be like if she weren't.
A medical expert told me almost half of those suffering from manic depression aren't diagnosed at all. Frightens me to think of people having symptoms like Carrie and not knowing what's wrong with them. I'm told it's an illness that's surprisingly difficult to pin down to achieve a diagnosis. Now, I'm diagnosed bipolar, and bipolarity is a disease of the brain. So a brain scan will surely reveal a sign of what I have. The research being carried out here at the Maudsley Hospital in South London compares normal brains with bipolar ones like mine.
So we're coming right to the front of the brain.
Oh my goodness, that's
okay?
my eyes.
And so
Yes.
just grabbing the front of the nose, and then we'll scroll back through.
That's my face,
And your
virtually.
little chubby cheeks there as well.
My little chubby cheeks. But by looking at a sample of slices from a brain, you can't tell, or can you, whether someone is bipolar or...
When it comes to bipolar, looking at a single subject's structural scan would not give you
No.
diagnostic information at this stage.
Is there anything you see in my brain that leads you to the view that I am bipolar?
No, I think it's the short, very
Right,
short answer to
yeah.
that.
So there is as yet no brain test that can diagnose bipolarity. But I've been hearing talk of a bipolar gene. To find out more, I've come to have my DNA tested as part of the world's largest study of bipolarity, based here at Cardiff University. They have 2,000 subjects already, and now for 2001.
Do I get my Wally Pop now?
Yeah. So, this is your DNA.
My DNA, thank you so much. Oh, it's so attractive. I knew it would be. It's beautiful, isn't it? Ooh. So which way now?
Okay, so we'll go up to look at the sequenome. You know it must be good just from the name.
It's
don't you?
fantastic.
Yeah.
Welcome to the sequenome, Mr.
Yeah.
Bond.
What we have found is that if you simply compared people with bipolar disorder against people without controls, we don't actually see any overall difference. Unfortunately, the press, you know, as you know, they'll publish reports saying the bipolar gene or, you know, whatever. And that's completely incorrect. There'll be many genes that are involved in bipolarity.
So at the moment, there is no clear-cut test to show if someone is bipolar. How then do you tell? How was I diagnosed all those years ago? Well, a psychiatrist simply asked a lot of questions about my behaviour and my feelings. At Cardiff, Nick uses the same process, but involving 200 questions to carefully build up a picture of a person's life history of manic depression.
We've developed a scale. When I found out information from you, I'll tell you where you score on our scale.
Right.
Looking back, times when you think perhaps it was something a bit out of the ordinary or unusual, caused a problem or you needed treatment.
Well, I suppose the first time I needed treatment, I think I was 14.
In hindsight, my symptoms really surfaced here. But the problem for almost everyone was that they just looked like bad behaviour. I was nearly expelled from my prep school. I was expelled from here.
It's very strange revisiting a place where one was so intensely alive as to be almost in a constant state of edginess and I suppose what one would call mania now. Because I cut games, I was so often alone, wandering around on the roofs. I think I used to crawl all over the roof for a mixture of risk and power when you're looking down on people. The effect of my behaviour was, of course, to make me unbearable, really. I mean, it's a show-off and a loudmouth and completely impossible to handle and disruptive. Oh, my God. No. See, thin. I may never have been a good-looking boy, but I was once thin.
I got out the fry file.
Oh, no.
Meeting my old housemaster and his wife ensures an uncomfortable reminder of past crimes, like being given permission to go to London and then not returning.
We went to see films. We just went nuts.
Yeah, that's
to the
right.
cinema.
Yes, yes. I mean, one of which was The Clockwork Orange.
That's
My
right.
father thought, oh my God, all the films that he might have seen.
But I was consumed and gripped by it.
Well, you should have been back.
A lot earlier.
I had the Metropolitan Police out looking for
I didn't realise that. I never realised that.
Stephen has been a problem. The letter from Gerard Vaughan.
That psychiatrist.
Suggesting various things, adolescent depression, mild depressive illness rather than just unhappiness. Behaviourally, he can be quite infantile. I think Mr. Fry, that's your father, may have mentioned that the advice given to him by doctors in London suggests that he might have some brain damage to account for this. That's a crude way of...
Good Lord.
We were not aware of any drug taking or sexual offences, however.
Phew.
Oh, well, gosh, he didn't know much then, did he, really?
And then the awful thing, which is the stealing, that gripped me.
You didn't need money. You didn't need to steal.
No, so odd. So you didn't know it was I who was the...
I wouldn't have suspected it at all, Stephen, no.
You laid a trap in Matron's...
We did, which Elizabeth...
That was you. You were hiding in Matron's room.
I was in her bathroom. It was a terrible shock to see you.
Strange emotional turmoil I was in. Stealing things that I couldn't possibly want, you know. As well as stealing money, it must be said, which I did want, I suppose. Did I feel shame when I stole things? I suppose I did. But there's something very extraordinary about going through a room where you're not supposed to be looking for things. And it's like when you watch it in a movie, you know, when the hero's burgling somebody's flat or something. It's very nerve-wracking. Your heart is in your throat. And it's a real buzz. And considering I didn't do any sports or anything else that gave me any kind of adrenaline rush, which sport is supposed to do, maybe that's what it was. Whether it was part of a disorder that can be given a name, I don't know. It was bad enough for me to have to go to a psychiatrist anyway.
That didn't lead to a diagnosis of manic depression, probably because, like the school authorities, like my parents, and to be fair, like me at the time, why would you have thought it was anything other than bad behaviour? So I was expelled and just stumbled on, continuing to steal as I went. By this time I had progressed to credit cards stolen from the jackets of my parents' friends. This led to my next big manic episode, when I used the money in the most grandiose way.
When I was about 17, going around London on a stolen credit card, it was a sort of fantastic reinvention of myself, an attempt. You know, I bought ridiculous suits with stiff collars and silk ties from the 1920s and would go to the Savoy and the Ritz and drink cocktails. The morality of it never crossed my mind at all. I think it's more that when you're in a sort of grip of a manic fantasy, you don't really believe other people exist. You are the centre of your universe. I wanted to be in there. That's what and Stephen Fry sitting there. And the white coats are so appropriate, aren't they, the barman? But they're nurses in a wonderful mental hospital.
It didn't, of course, last. After months of travelling the country using my stolen credit card, I was arrested. I was sent to Pucklechurch Remand Centre.
So this is kind of what, in my day, would have been a long, sterile corridor with cell doors and... Wow, I mean, it's just so different. I had spent the last 10 years of my life, virtually, at boarding schools of one kind or another. So this was, for me, it was nothing, really, to be honest. It was just, instead of being called prefects or schoolmasters, they were called prison officers or screws. The only thing that really twisted my guts was my mother coming to visit on the first occasion she visited. And I used to be very keen on doing cryptic crosswords, Times crossword, things like that. And she had, all the time I'd been away, she'd cut out the Times crossword every single day. And that sort of simple demonstration of love and being there for me and thinking of me was, really stuck in my throat.
How many times in your life would you have had an episode like that?
I would think 4 or 5 of that extremity. If I'm to take my past history, then I sort of believe maybe it's perhaps every 5 years a huge storm will come. I don't know, but that's sort of often the way it is.
So when would the first time have been that you had a depression?
I would think it was about 6 months before that manic experience, oddly enough.
When you've been depressed like that, what's your self-esteem like then?
Oh, it's absolute zero. Stand up from a sofa and walk to the fridge is an act of unbelievable effort. Everything that happens is because you are a cunt. It's because I'm a complete wanker, that's because I'm an arsehole. You kind of almost have a Tourette's view of yourself. You think of death all the time. And even if you're not getting suicidal, you're just constantly aware of death and aware you're in death and how welcome it would be. That's when I tried to kill myself.
Right, so you'd have been...
17.
It was tablets, was it?
Yes, I took as many as I could, as many variations as I could in order to make them as toxic as possible. Unfortunately, it just made me projectile vomit. And I do remember absolutely that it was a suicide attempt, not a cry for help.
Looking back through your life, just roughly how many episodes of depression like that do you think you've experienced, just roughly?
I should say 5 or 6.
Okay.
I think Nick Craddock's getting the picture, but so am I. Adding up all that extreme behaviour is making me a little concerned about what my eventual score will be. Something that always bothers me is whether I could have avoided some of these harrowing moments if I'd just been diagnosed earlier. But that's actually now a very controversial issue, because in America, psychiatrists seem only too happy to diagnose children. As a result, Susie Jensen, who lives outside San Francisco, has known for 5 years that both her young teenage sons are bipolar.
I'm Stephen Fry.
Nice to meet you.
How do you do? Thanks so much for
on in.
letting us come. Thank you.
Absolutely, no problem.
Is there a thing you can say, you know your child's bipolar when, ...
You know your kid's bipolar when they're putting their feet through a plate glass window in a rage after they have been raging for 3 hours about something that you can't even remember what triggered. And certainly risky and dangerous behavior. I mean, Ian at one point went up on, we had an A-line roof, and he went up and was trying to walk the narrowest point of the A-line. You know, with his eyes closed.
I didn't do it on the
a little
railway,
extreme,
but I used to
you know, yeah, you know your kid's bipolar when the behavior is so extreme that I had a neuropsych evaluation done on Ian. Yeah. And when I went to get the results of the testing, the psychiatrist, he met me in the lobby. He said, you know, I've just, in all the years that I've been doing this, I haven't been this concerned about the results. And he went on to tell me a story that Ian had told him about he was walking into a room with bare feet and could feel a sensation under his feet that he couldn't recognize. Until all of a sudden he looked down and realized that it was my dismembered body all over the floor that he was trotting over. Now that is...
Yeah, you don't want to hear that, really,
it's
do you?
concerning.
How old is he then?
6.
6 years old. Do you ever enjoy your mania, or do you find it a real
No,
tough?
I don't.
No.
I mean, I don't like it.
No. So when you're doing something like bad, like throwing something or fighting...
In a bad mood in a fight or something.
Yeah. Do you feel that's you, and that you're right to be in a bad mood, and the rest of the world is...
I do.
Is shit?
I do sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Diagnosed at 11, Ian's now 16. By that age, I'd already been expelled from school, so listening to him reminded me of my own attitude.
It's a drive. It's like it's feeding some need that he has.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
You can see it.
It's... Yeah, it is kind of a drive, something I need, something that happens.
Ian's brother Todd is 13. He was diagnosed when only 8. His behaviour, even at the special school Susie has managed to get both boys into, is causing problems. While I am with her, she's called to the school.
I'm normally not here until 2:30, but I got a call from the administrator saying that Todd had had a difficult morning and had actually, unfortunately, thrown a chair at a staff member and hit him.
Was there a reason were you just cross?
I was just, I just wanted to take a walk because I was kind of feeling pumped and angry, and they wouldn't let me do that, and so I just kind of got mad.
You just got, frustrated.
Yeah, and hurled the chair at the guy.
I was about 8 or 9, and there was a nurse at my school, and I was trying to do my laces up, and she told me to do double laces, and I didn't know what that meant, and I actually slapped her right across the face. And I've never known anything like that absolute rage inside me, and it was such a stupid thing because she'd told me how to do my laces up.
After a blow, especially a major one, very often he'll just shut down like this. I mean, I know that he's suspended for 3 days.
He's been suspended for 3 days.
I know Todd's school sees it as bad behaviour, but I have to say I feel a twinge of sympathy. I recognise the rage, being in the grip of powerful feelings, and the shame that comes afterwards. But Todd and Ian are different from me in one key respect at the same age. They know they have an illness. On the other hand, I know from speaking to psychiatrists in Britain that they don't agree with labelling children at such a young age. The norm in Britain is 19. So I wanted to speak to the consultant who diagnosed Ian and Todd.
You having fun?
Kiki Chang is well placed to talk about this because not only does he run a research project at the prestigious Stanford University just outside San Francisco, but also he has a 2-year-old child and knows that some of his colleagues were diagnosed as young as that.
Once you get down to, say, age 2 or 3, it's very normal to have complete discontrol over your mood. Tantrums and crying one minute and laughing the next minute. But I certainly have colleagues who are clear that they see it in 3-year-olds even. Certainly I have seen children who I think were 4 and a half who fit the bipolar criteria. They're having wild mood shifts and they're having unsafe behavior, they're not functioning, they're not developing correctly, they're losing a lot of time in their normal development.
Everyone remembers the rise of ADHD over the 80s and 90s. And indeed the cynics would always say, well, this is the new fashionable label to put on a bad kid, a disruptive kid.
I want to be careful to say that. I don't think we're over-diagnosing. I think that by increasing the diagnosis, you're catching more people. It's good because then it leads them to a bipolar diagnosis and they realize that there's something going on that may be treatable and it's not their fault.
Ian, come take your meds.
For Kiki Chang, diagnosis is good news. For Ian and Todd, it means medication. Ian showed me just how much he takes every day.
Welcome to our pharmacy.
That's what I like.
We're proud of it.
So you got Prozac, Lamictal, Adderall, Klonopin's like a tranquilizer type?
Yes.
I can tell they help me behave when I'm having a hard time. This is Ambien, which I take...
Oh, sleeping pill, isn't it?
Yeah, and Concerta, which I take in the morning. Concerta is, that's like Ritalin kind of.
It takes me the better part of an hour to stand and fill both of their medications.
All of that to take the edge off a 16-year-old's wilder behaviour. What I think, I'm not sure. I know British psychiatrists are concerned about the harm strong drugs might do to young brains, especially when they're not 100% sure the diagnosis is correct. But if the drugs help Ian and Todd to avoid wrecking their lives, and their mothers, then surely that's a good conclusion. So would I have wanted diagnosis at 16 if it meant being on medication since then? I feel that in some ways I've been helped by my manic depression, and that complicates my view. Would I have had success without it?
Please welcome your host for the evening, Mr. Stephen Fry.
Would you know me if I wasn't driven by its energy to be creative?
Oh, stop it. Thank you, how kind. I am delighted, honoured, and let's not be coy about these things, financially rewarded. This is a stressful time because, apart from anything else, you're making an ass of yourself, potentially, in front of people you admire.
Now, stress is often a key factor that people say pushes them into manic depression, and certainly when I was diagnosed, the psychiatrist told me not to work so hard. Relax, avoid stressful situations. As you can see, I took his advice seriously.
Enjoyable, some people might imagine this kind of thing is. They're the same kind of people who think it's enjoyable to have someone stub cigarettes out on your nipples in certain dark clubs and what I believe are called torture gardens in the leakier areas of the West End. Come in. And for the week leading up to it, I had the most appalling anxiety dreams in which I drop out of my clothes or I pee myself and it rolls off the front of the stage. Oh, God. I don't know if stress is what pushes me into a cycle of either mania or depression, because I can't think of a time in my life when I haven't been subject to stress.
Happy? Yep.
Happy? Ha! I remember that. 7 years old, ice cream, holidays. That was happy. Not since then, really. So, stress is something I can't live without. On the other hand, it is a dangerous thing. No disasters so far, but it's hot work. I can't wait for it to be fucking over, frankly. Oh, God, here we go again. I am delighted, honoured, and let's not be too coy about these things, financially rewarded to welcome you to this most prestigious...
Well, the real thing seems to go off okay for another year. I do manage to function despite my manic depression, and I'm sure it does help me to succeed. And that's the problem with connecting stress to the onset of manic depression. My stress is your easy day at the office. One person copes, the other goes mad. I've come to Cornwall to see how manic depression wrecked the career, the marriage, and almost took the life of a man who was once Lieutenant Commander on the Royal Yacht Britannia.
Here we are, Princess Margaret one side, Lieutenant Commander Harvey there, and Majesty the Queen there. 22 years ago. And you were a well bunny then, weren't you? I
was well.
4 years on the Royal Yacht led to a senior posting in NATO. Under huge pressure working in a nuclear bunker, Rod became so deeply depressed he had a breakdown.
My self-confidence seemed to be just seeping away, and my self-esteem, and then I couldn't sleep. Awful sort of feeling, desperation.
Eventually invalided out of the Navy, he still became secretary of the Royal Yacht Club in Plymouth. That lasted until, at a prize-giving ceremony, Rod, now manic, awarded it to the wrong person. The real winner wouldn't accept Rod's apology.
Until in the end I just lost it, and in front of all the spectators, I just shouted, excuse my French, fuck off, and marched off into the night. I actually hallucinated by seeing the devil burning black coals of these eyes of the devil. That's what I saw. That was frightening. I believed I was Jesus at the time, you know, though I didn't tell people that because then I wouldn't have been Jesus, you know.
Rod was brought back to England and sectioned at this psychiatric hospital in Plymouth. He was now overwhelmed with depression.
I was experiencing pain in my head. I've been given a touch of hell.
Yeah.
I was meant to find out what hell feels like. So I contrived to escape from the hospital. They let me leave the unit to go upstairs to turn right to the occupational therapy unit, unescorted, so I didn't turn right. I kept walking through the main doors to the dual carriageway, walked a bit down away from the roundabout so that vehicles could pick up speed, waited for a lorry to come along and then walked in front of it. I had actually compound fractures of both legs, of every bone in my legs. I have to lower my trousers
Okay, fair enough.
to actually see the full extent, really.
I've seen a lot of naval officers in this condition, don't worry.
I'm not like this, I don't
Oh my goodness, no. Oh God. That is really extraordinary. Can you just give a twirl, as they say? That is indicative of what must have been a savage injury.
That all happened over 10 years ago, and with medication, Rod says his condition has now stabilised. But twice a year, in the spring and in the autumn, he starts to feel the mania build again, and despite what's happened to him, he's reluctant to take extra medication to control it.
I believe there is another world running in parallel to the normal, in inverted commas, boring, which I find boring world.
Yeah.
That there is another world, and that the curtain gets lifted, the veil gets lifted when I'm psychotically manic.
Yeah.
And then I enter into the parallel world, and then I see things in a totally different way. I will go into pubs and I will see angels. You know, I know that they know who I am, and I know who they are, and we have a tremendous sort of bond between us because of a shared knowledge.
Do you regret the fact that you were born with this strange disorder that is called bipolar or manic depression?
It's a very easy question.
Is it? Yeah.
It's a very easy answer. No.
You don't regret it?
No, not for a second. Because if you've walked with angels, all the pain and suffering is well worthwhile.
Wow.
You'll be pleased to know I don't see angels, or the devil, or think I'm Jesus. On the other hand, I agree with Rod. We manic depressives do love our manic periods. And I know that doesn't help diagnosis. When we're up, we're not ill. Don't be silly, we're fine. No need for a doctor. But that doesn't disguise the fact that Rod so nearly killed himself, and that he really wanted to when he was in the grip of the other side of this illness. The legacy of any suicide for the family left behind is extremely painful. But when the cause is manic depression, suicide also leaves fear. The fear that the same thing might happen again with another member of the family, because manic depression is an illness that's always handed down in families. And that's what's brought me further down the coast in Cornwall to see an old friend who's had to live with that thought since he was 18. That's when he found out that his father was bipolar.
Say. And this is where you would come every summer holiday?
Yeah, we would. Great memories for me as a child, I must say. We used to sit out on that deck chairs on that slate bit down there.
Which is have lashings and lashings of lemonade.
Well, we did.
It's very famous 5, isn't it?
Oh, isn't it?
Just wonderful.
Just imagine having every summer holiday here.
So, I mean, slightly mixed emotions to you coming back here, I suppose.
Well, yeah, because I mean, my father actually killed himself, well, just over there, actually. So it's not the best.
One of the heartbreaking things about his suicide was that he actually went out with his sister, your aunt,
yes.
and threw himself off that cliff in front of you.
He dived off, you know, so I mean, he wasn't messing about. So, I'm afraid they've all broken up a bit, but I'm trying to find a decent picture of him. There he is.
That's your father.
Yeah. The idea of having a loony father is just, you know, very sort of embarrassing and shameful, really. At 18, I was so keen to sort of hide the whole business, really. You know, you just want to be normal at that age, you know. I just became morbidly sort of aware of it and very, very depressed. And you get these panic attacks. My way of coping with it was to sort of like almost pretend it hadn't happened. As shortly after he died, I went away to Australia and America and Mexico for 2 years, just running away from it, really.
Rick returned and built a huge success story just miles from where his father died. But he also spent his life wondering if he'd inherit the condition that made his father kill himself.
I was always, you know, so worried then about ending up like him. The thing is that he thought I was particularly like him, and I think he was incredibly troubled by that. My father didn't sort of show signs of it till his mid-40s, really. So, I mean, you know, I'm well over it now.
Fortunately.
But then you think about my son, I think about my sons too.
Of course you would, yeah.
You know, my sons are still in their mid-20s, so there's plenty of time.
Do you see a psychotherapist?
I do.
You do see a psychotherapist, yeah. And that's helpful?
Well, it is. I do believe, but only probably through seeing the psychotherapist, that really what happens to you as a child is indelibly printed on your brain. You know, they fuck you up, your mum and dad, exactly. You know.
What the research shows is that if you have manic depression, someone in your family will have had it before you. Could be a grandparent, aunt or uncle as well as a parent, and often they might not have been diagnosed. So there appears to be no warning, but there will be somebody. On the other hand, as Rick's experience shows, just because your father has it doesn't mean you'll necessarily get it. But the worry remains for bipolar parents. Will I pass it on? And now for bipolar mothers, researchers have made another devastating discovery. Pregnancy itself and the act of childbirth are now proved to be enormously dangerous to the mental health of women who are already bipolar.
So when I saw you, Kane, I said that, in my opinion, the risk that you had of becoming unwell again in pregnancy or certainly following the delivery were very high. I think probably 60% or more is the kind of rate of risk that you'd need to think about.
Gaynor Thomas lives in Wales and is part of the same research study that I'm involved in. She's trying to decide whether she dare risk getting pregnant again, knowing that her manic depression has already led to unusual behaviour.
See, that one goes there, I think. That's better. There we are. There's one there, look. I had kind of delusions of grandeur.
Did you believe you were richer than you were, or better born, or that you were, you know, some people believe they're princesses, or...
Mine were quite religious in nature. One of the episodes, I thought that I was one of God's chosen people, for want of a better word. I thought that I was able to heal people. I thought I had kind of special powers, and I thought that I'd kind of been sent to gather together a group of people to change the world in some way. I was seeing a psychotherapist at the time, and she identified that my ideas were becoming very strange and called in what would have been the equivalent of the community mental health team, who treated me at home.
Yeah. With medication?
With medication, yes.
Right. And then came a very traumatic thing, a very wonderful thing for most people, which is pregnancy.
Yeah.
And you did have a manic episode while
Yes.
pregnant. And how did that show itself?
The more religious side came in after I'd had Thomas.
Right.
Oh, well, I just thought he was not just a special baby, but a very special baby.
But sort of like a messiah.
Almost to that degree, yes. And that I'd kind of been chosen to give birth to him, and together we were going to change the world.
It's such a small step, and yet it's such a huge one in terms of embarrassment, if you were to say it at a party. You know?
Yes.
There's a way of saying, my child's the centre of my universe, and saying, my child is the centre of the universe. Yeah.
Initially it was kind of postnatal euphoria,
Right.
but it became postnatal mania. I couldn't sleep. I was so excited, called the psychiatrist and said, I think I need to see somebody because things are kind of getting out of control.
Gaynor was sectioned in a psychiatric hospital for a month. The drugs the hospital put her on calmed her down, but now she's frightened that it might happen all over again if she gets pregnant. Ian Jones told me Gaynor is right to be scared.
Women with bipolar disorder are at very high risk of having a much more severe episode of illness in relationship to childbirth, often with psychotic symptoms like hallucinations or delusions. And really these episodes can be some of the most severe episodes of illness that we see in psychiatric practice.
Really? In all psychiatric practice?
The last 2 confidential inquiries into maternal death have showed us is that suicide is now the leading cause of death to women around childbirth in this country.
Gaynor wants Thomas to have a brother or sister, but Ian Jones's information is hard to ignore.
And it made me just rethink the whole idea of having a baby. I'm sad that I won't be able to have another child. Perhaps for Thomas's sake. But I've got to accept that the risks are probably too high.
Down the stairs we go. No.
No, as you say, you don't know what might have happened.
No, precisely.
Slow down, slow down.
I love the heels of his shoes.
Manic depression's capacity to destroy the lives of people makes it all the more important for it to be diagnosed early, but often it goes undetected because of what most sufferers do to help them cope with the mood swings. They cover up their symptoms. Certainly I did for almost 20 years. It's called self-medication, or as you would quite properly call it, the taking of excessive amounts of drink and drugs, vodka and cocaine in my case.
The effect of it is that coke is a stimulant and that alcohol is a sedative, supposedly. And I'm naturally often so manic and energetic that I often took coke to calm me down. But I found it very hard to go to any kind of party without knowing there were a couple of grams in my wallet, you know. I just had to have them there. I feel slightly embarrassed about using a phrase like self-medication because it sounds like, you know, you're sort of excusing yourself or saying you're doing it for noble reasons. I did find, and this is the point, that it stops one from feeling in a strange kind of way.
We've got an agenda to work out.
You're no longer sort of depressed or manic. You're just you're just going, you're just on, you know?
That's what I was doing all during my successful 80s and 90s. My friends, if they'd thought about it at all, would have said heavy user, not manic depressive. They'd have mistaken the symptoms for the cause, and that happens a lot. I did it with someone I went to university with, worked on the stage and telly with, and even made a film with.
The first time it really manifested itself was at a time when I was doing this film, Peter's Friends. I was having a gloriously happy time, and I was in employment, and I had money. My personal life was happy, and so on paper there was absolutely no reason for me to be suddenly plunged into this sort of pit of abnormal psychology, this low mood.
Good evening, and why don't you get a shovel in your hand and do a decent day's work, you lazy sod?
You know, I wasn't drinking excessively then. I wasn't taking any kind of psychotropic substance, either prescribed or proscribed, and it came out of the blue. You know, if you're down and you can see a reason why you should be down, then that brings with it a certain clarity. But if there's no reason, you tend to think, well, why on earth am I feeling like this? I don't understand. If left to your own devices, you can often try and stop the cycle of ups and downs through self-medication, ingestion of alcohol and narcotics, cocaine in particular. But with me, the depression came before the substance abuse. Right. Everyone thinks of depression as being a very low, despondent mood, but there's agitated depression, there's psychomotor agitation where you're endlessly pacing and you can't sleep and you're short-tempered. I rented a huge warehouse by the River Thames and just stayed in there on my own and didn't open any mail or answer any phone calls for months and months and months, and just in this pool of rapid cycling despair and mania, 3 full bar optics of vodka to try to get you to sleep when you haven't been to sleep for 3 days, just sort of spending time howling at the moon and throwing your furniture in the Thames. Which what I did.
Really?
What I did, yes. Threw all my electrical equipment in the Thames a long time ago, this was, with the river police going up and down with their megaphones saying, "Tony, stop throwing things in the Thames."
Did they know who you were? They recognised you.
Did.
They said, "There's that Tony Slattery."
There's that Tony Slattery off the telly. Yes, that thankfully was a long time ago. That was a dark hour.
So I suppose what I'm leading to is this question, is that here's a button, and if I were to press that button, you would take away every aspect of your bipolarity to cyclothymia. It's still not caused you the greatest happiness over the years, but maybe it's had something to do with who you are. So do you want to press the button?
No, I'll keep it. At the moment, because I'm in an equable state, I choose not to press the button, but I'd like to have the option.
Do you know, almost everybody I've spoken to has said that.
It says something about manic depression that despite it being the greatest killer of all psychiatric illnesses, many of those suffering from it, if given a chance, don't want to get rid of it. If I'm honest, I don't. But I came across one woman who absolutely would press the button. Connie Perris lives in Birmingham and is just in her 40s. Her symptoms are so severe that she divides her life into before bipolarity and after.
One of the difficulties is coming in here and feeling a bit paranoid. I see what I think is someone looking at me and I'm thinking, why is she looking at me? Well, why is he watching me? She's following me. And I think, he's giving me funny looks. And then clicks in the thinking, I'm getting paranoid again.
Right.
People are giving me funny looks because I'm giving them funny looks.
Before, she was a lawyer, captain in the Territorial Army, a black belt in Aikido and active in the community. Now, Connie can hardly get to the shops.
When I'm very depressed, I slow down and slow down and slow down, and it gets to the point at which I'm just not moving at all. Inside my head, I can see, I can hear, but somehow I just don't have the energy or the oomph to move forward. And it can be a bit embarrassing when I'm out in the shops and I'm just stuck there, not moving.
So can I,
before we do that, can I just pace up and down the corridor slightly because I'm getting quite shaky?
Of course you can, absolutely.
Sorry.
No.
I can feel the shakes getting slightly worse. So
I'm
if I can
sorry.
just sort of
have a pace and
yeah,
breathe.
just pace. That's a week's pills.
Wow. That is quite a serious slab of medication, isn't it?
Yeah. There's 2 different ones that try to stop me going too high and too low. One slows down the swings,
yeah.
And one stops it going too high. Stuff for my thyroid because that also slows mood swings down. There's something to help me sleep and something to deal with the paranoia and other psychotic thinking. And then there's the mineral supplement to try and stop my hair falling out from the mood stabilisers.
Golly Wally. Every day?
Every day.
And in your depressions, have you considered, you know, the worst side of depression, which is suicide?
Well, in a period of 4 days, I took an overdose. I stepped out in front of an oncoming train. I tried to drill a hole in my head with an electric drill and I cut my wrists.
Try to dig a hole in your head with an electric drill. That is extreme.
I was just so utterly despairing. I didn't think I could take any more.
How do you see the future?
I don't see it. I try to take it a minute at a time because at the moment I don't see it. I'd like to. I really wish I could, but at the moment I don't. I so very much bitterly resent having manic depression. I wish I could say otherwise, but that's how I feel. I resent it deeply.
It's perhaps a hard fact, but one we should face, that of those people who have severe bipolarity and aren't receiving treatment, half attempt suicide, and 20% succeed. Having met Connie, I realise I was lucky originally to be diagnosed at the mild end of the bipolar scale. But that was 11 years ago. Now I'm concerned to know how my way of dealing with it will affect my rating on Professor Craddock's scale of mania.
Now, 0 on that scale is somebody who has absolutely no features of being bipolar at all. But between 1 and 39, that's somebody who has what we call subclinical episodes of mania. 40 to 59 on our scale is people who only get hypomanias, so that's the milder episodes. And then 60 and above is the range where people experience full manias. From what you've told me, you would score probably about 70. Although, to be honest, I wonder if you got close to having grandiose delusions in that first episode. If you did, on our scale, that would actually put you above 80.
Yeah. Okay, well, yes, that's... Well, it's good to know I'm not wasting your time and that any like my little genes may be of some help to you in your research.
Well, I didn't expect that. It's worrying that I seem to be getting worse. Clearly, I must now consider treatment. I haven't been on any medication since my original diagnosis. Should I be? I think my life needs to change dramatically.
The most dangerous sporting activity for women, which turns out to be cheerleading, apparently. Hello, Stephen here. I don't know what number you're calling. This is a dressing room. No, all right. It's all the same old gang. Jimmy, how are you, my darling? Nice to see you.
You're Manic Depressive?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
That's all right.
No, that's all right.
Oh, that's all right. There's another me behind this public mask that is joshing and being amusing and trying to entertain. And sometimes it's a very miserable and despairing one, because I'm thinking, oh God, when's this going to be over? Sophocles and Socrates, the ancient Greeks that you and I talk about every day. There are times when I'm doing it when I so hate myself, and I'm actually kind of sobbing and kind of tearing at the walls inside my own brain while my mouth is, wittering away in some amusing fashion ho-ho about whatever it is.
It wouldn't be television. Without television, you are nothing. I know that better than anyone.
I always have voices in my head saying what a useless bastard I am, but the voice is my own. It is my own voice just telling me what a worthless lump of shit I am.
Are you surprised that I feel like that? I no longer am, because I know that it's the result of my illness. I have a disease of the brain that I share with 4 million others in the UK. It can be a serious condition, It's led me to being expelled from school, imprisoned for theft, and attempting suicide, all by the age of 17.
Please welcome your host for the evening, Mr. Stephen Fry.
It's tormented me all my life with the deepest of depressions, while giving me the energy and creativity that perhaps has made my career. It's called bipolarity or manic depression. Until now, I've tried to cope with it largely by ignoring it. But I'm not so sure that that's been wise. I want to know how severe my condition is, so I've taken part in the world's largest study of bipolarity, which happens to be in Cardiff. The results have shocked me.
Now, 0 on that scale is somebody who has absolutely no features of being bipolar at all. From what you've told me, you would score probably about 70. You fit well into the realm of people who have, you know, full-blown manic episodes.
It's clear I have bipolarity more severely than I believed, so I've decided to think again about possible treatments, investigate what's now available, and decide if I have to change my life dramatically. When you go on the net to find treatments for manic depression, you quickly discover there is no simple, agreed approach. That's because people's symptoms vary widely, as does the severity of their condition. It's a complicated illness that's not even diagnosed until a crisis point is reached. That was certainly true for me. I lived most of my life with it, unaware of what I had. Then, 11 years ago, my crisis happened. My life fell apart after, I suppose, years of success. I'd just started a run in a new play in the West End. Reviews of my performance were critical.
I suppose I was unhappy with my own performance. I clearly wrote that I'd felt a failure as an actor, and I think I did, but I don't think one bad performance in a series of not very good reviews, which were never savage, would be enough to make me escape life, or try and kill myself for that matter. So there obviously was something else deeply amiss inside, some terrible feeling that it all had to stop.
So did I give off any signs that I was in turmoil? One person who might have noticed is an old friend. I went to his party just 3 days into the play's run.
You don't remember what mood I was in at that time, do you?
No, I don't remember you actually being anything but your usual debonair self at the party.
Yeah. I don't remember reading that many reviews of the play, to be honest. And I don't know that it was entirely that. I did feel that I'd failed in it, I think. But I felt that I'd failed in absolutely everything. I felt I'd failed in my entire existence. And it's odd how one doesn't give off any signals of that.
No. Well, I don't think you did.
No.
Because all I remember at the party was people were delighted to see you, as always, because you had not seemed incredibly out of sorts.
Have I ever come across as a troubled soul?
No. You're somebody who has a strong consciousness of your social obligations.
Yes.
Politeness. You're worried about how the other person feels. You want to make sure that they are engaged in conversation.
It's John Cleese, who is, of course, famous for his interest in psychoanalysis and things. He did once say that my politeness would be, would be the destroyer of me.
Like so many manic depressives, I may have looked happy, but inside I was hopelessly depressed. Within hours of Griff's party, I decided to act. Very early in the morning, I came down from my flat in central London to where my car was, in the garage.
Yeah, I went in there, sat in the car with my hand over the ignition, brought down a duvet, which is one of those preposterous details that always accompany something like a grand gesture or a grand attempt to kill yourself. You have to think about it. I thought, well, if I have the duvet along there, it'll stop the air getting in. I had this image of my parents staring right in at me while I sat there for at least, I think, 2 hours in the car, my hands on the ignition key. And so I decided not to do it. I drove to the south coast to get a ferry. far as the suicide was concerned, it was not that I decided I'd never do it again. I think it was more, I just delayed it. One reads of elephants crawling away to die. They don't want to be seen. It's a primal feeling of ending and severing all connections with everything that you have been. I really believed that I would never come back to England. I had it in my head northern Germany or Denmark. I'd get a huge thick white pullover and a pipe and sit in a stone cottage and offer to give English lessons and learn to mend nets. I don't know what it was, a bizarre fantasy. Found myself in Hamburg and I saw these rows of, newspaper headlines and fears for Fry type thing. And I stared at it in complete disbelief. I mean, it was absolutely staggered. They all are worried that I've committed suicide. That's the awful thing, isn't it? I can't believe I made people worry so much. When you feel you can't go on, it's not just a phrase. It is it's a reality. I could not go on. And I would have killed myself if I didn't have the option of disappearing.
I was away for a week. For my family, my disappearance was especially worrying.
At the time, I don't know if I believe in sort of great sense of family, that nothing bad has happened, but it just didn't cross my mind. And I'm talking that, you might have
done away with yourself. Myself.
Been gone and done it. And then you rang me. You sounded rather small and lost, boyish. And I was absolutely terrified of saying the wrong thing to you, to frighten you about quite how enormous it had been back at home.
In some ways more troubled than ever, I quietly came back to London and was taken into the Cromwell Hospital. I spent 3 weeks here, and at the age of 37, a psychiatrist for the first time gave me a diagnosis of bipolar disorder.
I don't think I'd heard the word bipolar before, but I do have extremes of mood that are greater than just about anybody else I know, and can occasionally go wild enough for it to be real trouble for me. So in that sense, bipolar fitted. Part of me resisted it. Part of me thought, it looks like an excuse. Another part of me was immensely grateful and pleased to know that some of the extremes of my feelings and behaviour were, had a cause.
With the psychiatrist's diagnosis came his advice for treatment. Like many other manic depressives, I was told to reduce the stress in my life, take time off, stop working so hard. I came here to Los Angeles, walked this beach every day, got surprisingly fit, and thought about his other course of treatment, the drug lithium. That's the standard medication 7 out of 10 of those with manic depression are advised to take. But it's an old-fashioned drug, discovered about 60 years ago and feared for its power to take away feeling, all feeling, making you a kind of zombie. I refused his offer and have never taken it. In fact, I've never been on any medication since that first diagnosis. But now, with my condition appearing to be getting worse, I'm wondering if I'm wise. Until now, I haven't wanted my mood stabilized. But perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps I don't need to fear the medication. I want to know how someone else in my business has coped, what choice they made. Now living in London, Richard Dreyfuss has spent most of his life battling bipolarity. As with me, it's led him into all kinds of scrapes. Like me, he eased the pain of his mood swings with street drugs and alcohol. Unlike me, he was willing to take what the doctors prescribed. Has that been the right choice?
In every conversation, sooner or later, I get up like this. And we're gonna do this, and we're gonna go here, and... I've recognized that at certain times my behavior has been capable of being off-putting, perhaps.
Can you tell us what you take?
It's different things. It's things having to deal with manic depression and ADD and concentration and sleep and anxiety. and lithium. Lithium was the very first thing I took for many, many years. And now, 20 years later, 23 years later, I am just about not taking lithium.
I mean, there are those who are very afraid of lithium because they think of it as some kind of pharmacological zombie drug. Did you find that when you took it?
With lithium, I remember driving down Mulholland Drive one night, and all of a sudden, I was aware, after 10 days of taking it, that I had letterboxed, that I could feel this. It was absolutely non-claustrophobic experience that took the top and bottom and said you could live here. And I was very happy to do so. I married with it. I had children by it. Reclaimed a career, if you want to put it that way.
Bring it on the barrel! I'm coming around again!
So we're talking about...
Late 70s.
Oh, late 70s. Oh, gosh, right.
I changed dramatically. I said to my doctor once, I have become a person I admire in the last few years. I have wept more. I have said I'm sorry more. I have succeeded in endeavors that were impossible and blah, 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 blah. And I could not have done that without this courage. And he said to me, it's not courage. It is the absence of anxiety. And that is as true a statement.
Richard said yes to lithium and other mood stabilizers, and it's clearly helped him cope with severe manic depression. Perhaps I've been too hasty saying no to it, but I'd like to find out how medical science justifies dependence on drugs. Because, as Richard tells me, once he was on them, he's had to stay on them. That's what brings me to Aberdeen and a psychiatrist with strong views about taking the medication.
I mean, here are your mood stabilizers, for example. Lithium. I mean, lithium was used for periodic mood disorders 2 centuries ago, but it was also used as a treatment for gout. And it was believed to have health-giving properties. Yeah. It tastes salty, but it's not a good idea to sprinkle it on your food if you... It's dangerous, it's toxic.
It's toxic.
Yes.
Yes, for the kidneys and for various other things, isn't it? It's not
Indeed.
particularly healthy.
That's the reason why, when folks are taking lithium, they have to have regular blood tests.
So those who say, "Oh, lithium is a zombie pill," it's a kind of chemical pharmaceutical lobotomy. This kind of idea to you is nonsense.
As many patients report cognitive dulling with many medicines in psychiatry. And that's particularly true in folks being treated with bipolar disorder. And some of that dulling of cognitive performance might not be due to the medicine at all, but might be a property of the illness.
Right.
And that by not taking medication, you might make that worse. The danger is that folks, and we know this is the case, that many patients with bipolar disorder just don't take the medicine. Colleagues in Edinburgh looked at what happened when folks gave up the lithium, and they showed that not only did patients relapse, as you might expect some of them to do, but some of them relapsed a lot faster than the pattern of their illness before they'd started lithium. I mean, for example, if someone stops and starts lithium, you will have more episodes of mania than you would have had you never taken it at all. If you discontinue your lithium, in the first year off lithium, the number of reported suicidal acts increases beyond the level that was there before.
Because it means once you start, you really have to stay on it for good.
Or in the longer term.
Yeah.
I clearly look preoccupied coming away from seeing Professor Reed, but it isn't because I'm worrying about his message, take medication and stay on it. It's because for the last few days, I've been feeling increasingly depressed.
Very sort of black stage at the moment, and would love to be somewhere else other than here, frankly. I'm fully aware I'm a very awful person to be with. I find it difficult to meet people's eyes. I find it very difficult to connect to people. I find it very... I just want to be alone, frankly. I'm just praying the little pass, basically, because it's fucking irritating, and I hate myself for it. I mean, I've never thought that I hear voices, but I do have a voice telling me I'm a complete cunt all the time in my head.
Usually when I feel like this, I hide away. I can't this time. For me, that numbing kind of depression comes 3 to 4 times a year and lasts a week to 10 days. I spend the time in the house, staring at the ceiling, still afraid to take antidepressants or mood stabilizers like lithium. So as you can see, I'm still very much in the grip of mood swings, but also still more afraid of the medication than the illness. Surprising as it might seem, this is a common reaction among manic depressives. A couple of years ago, I read a newspaper article by the parents of a 27-year-old girl called Zoe Schwartz. I wanted to talk to them about what was in Zoe's mind during her last depression.
And it was 7 o'clock, she hadn't come. I said, let's ring the police after supper. I remember at 7:45, the police came.
In a flash, I knew what had happened. She went up to the end of the platform and she jumped very high. And the train driver then said, you know, it hit me at face level. She'd had it all planned.
Zoe was 27 when she killed herself. She was beautiful, articulate, very bright, with a master's degree from the London School of Economics, but she'd also spent almost 10 years trying to hide the symptoms of an illness that had already led to suicide attempts.
Hello! Hello! Love you, Dad.
Looking back on it now, what I know, and I do realise she was going up and down. But she hid it from everyone. She would never accept it, she would never admit it to herself, and had she admitted it, maybe she could have been helped.
This issue of people refusing to accept that they have it is a particularly difficult one. And did she imagine, was it pride in a way?
That's what her best friend said. The week after she died, her best friend came, we were all together, and she said it was her pride killed her. And she was writing in her diaries, all of which I found after her death, about these panic attacks, about these terrible fears she had, which she just hid from, presumably herself, to some extent, because she never talks in the diaries about being mentally ill, she just talks about fear.
Yeah.
But she hid it from everybody.
Despite the front Zoe put up, a breakdown eventually led to a diagnosis. She was presented with drugs to stabilize her moods. She resisted them.
She used in her diaries the phrase, I don't want to be one of the lithium generation.
It's a very modern phenomenon that Zoe was cut out to be a success. Her friends were successful. She had some very close friends from school. They were all successful in their way, and she was desperate to be a success. And the idea that she would be a basket case for all her life, that she would be taking lithium to bring her down, to sedate her, she could not accept that.
Went into the hospital for a few days, and then she walked out. She hated it. She hated the people on lithium, hated it.
With a lot of gowned people with lithium shuffling around a hospital, and she would naturally think, I'm not supposed to, that's not my life.
That dread seems to have propelled Zoe to her death.
She talked to the psychiatrist who came to see her every week or every 2 weeks, and she told him she wanted to kill herself. She died on Tuesday at 12:20, and he rang us up on Wednesday at 9 o'clock, and he said, I think she did that yesterday because she didn't want to come into hospital and take lithium. She was really frightened of lithium. She was really frightened of hospital, and she felt there's a terrible stigma.
That stigma is very, very important, and it's, I really do hope that you, Stephen, will be able to do something about that in this program, because this is so harmful.
It's revealing that Zoe saw going into hospital and taking drugs to calm her not as stages on the way to helping her recover, but as treatment she couldn't bear to undergo. And yet, to my surprise, when I was in Los Angeles recently, I learned that ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, is actually still used in the treatment of manic depression. Andy Behrman has become a celebrity in the US as a result of agreeing to ECT to curb the wildness of his bipolarity. I've never met someone who's been given electric shocks, 19 courses of convulsion. It's an extraordinary thing, and I'd just love to know what that's like and whether it worked for him.
So the next day I was in the hospital at 6 a.m. I was laying on a gurney, wheeled into a room. They connected the electrodes, they put the bite block in my mouth. So I woke up in recovery and I had no idea where I was, except I knew I felt great.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I was confused. My memory was a little shot.
Yeah, short-term memory loss is supposed to be...
Yeah, and if people tell you, if doctors tell you it's not real, they're lying. Mine was pretty long-term.
But you did feel better?
I felt like the concrete in my brain had been kind of liquefied and just shot through. And then my doctor said, you know what, we need to do maintenance therapy. I said, okay, how many treatments do I need? He said, hey, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, however many you need.
I'm interested in how Andy ended up being given such extreme treatment. His background was a respectable, middle-class Jewish family, but by his late teens and 20s, he was living out a truly manic existence.
You were cute and you had blue eyes, and so you got a job as a dancer, male dancer.
Stripper.
Stripper is the word, in fact.
Whore.
Exactly, you did it all.
Hustler, prostitute, I did it all. That kind of all ended, and then, because you have to understand how the mind works, the manic mind, okay, what am I going to do next? Wait, maybe I should go to law school, maybe I should go to medical school. No, that doesn't work. My sister's interested in public relations, let's go into business together. We're making $3-4 million. Out of control. So I wrote this article for the New York Times Magazine called Electro Boy, because a nurse had called me Electro Boy in the hospital. And it was just a story, an 820-word story, about my experience with ECT. And then I'd have to say, from that point on in my life, nothing went wrong.
Andy's article became a best-selling book that was then optioned for a film. Suddenly, the whole world knew Electro Boy.
ElectroBoy.com, Fighting Depression and Bipolar Disorder. All my closest friends have read your book and love it since they understand me slightly better now. I am 22 now and still suffering in bliss and agony.
Bliss and agony. Those are a good phrase, yeah.
20% of people with bipolar disorder kill themselves. 40% never were able to function well enough and end up living with their families. Another 20% don't function at the level that they were ever going to be able to function at, and work as clerks or cashiers or things like that. And 20% somehow stabilize, recover, and just go on to lead extremely productive lives.
So do you think it's Andy Behrman who beat bipolar, or the doctors who found the cocktails? Or
no, it's me who beat bipolar in tandem with a doctor that I saw for 10 years. I think I came around because after 19 rounds of electroshock therapy and 37 different medications, she said, you're on your own, you can do it.
Yeah.
You're on your own, you can do it.
Oh, you're beautiful.
This is Stephen.
Hello. You're going to read your daddy's book one day and you're going to wonder.
She has an Electro Baby t-shirt.
For Andy, the treatment worked, but I still can't imagine feeling so bad that I would agree to electrodes being attached to my temples. But I was genuinely surprised to learn, when I was talking to a British psychiatrist, that ECT is still used on about 5% of patients, and for those with severe depression, it works better than any existing drug. It's only the terrifying images of when it was used in the early days, without anaesthetics and muscle relaxants, that ensure the stigma around ECT remains. The same stigma surrounds mental hospitals and psychiatric wards in the treatment of manic depression. About 7 out of 10 manic depressives will have to enter hospital when they have a severe episode. They'll go either voluntarily or under what's called a sectioning order. Sectioning sounds to me just as dark and controlling as ECT, so I went to a psychiatric ward in East London to see if my fears were justified.
It might sound silly, but I think that's probably one of the most powerful pieces of paper in the country.
Really?
I'm not joking. That's a section. That's a section paper.
This is a section.
You know that phrase, you should be certified? He's certifiable. Well, that is the process of certification. In modern day language, basically, I'm licensed under Section 12 of the 1983 Mental Health Act to detain someone for the protection of their health, their safety, and increasingly in this risk-crazy world of ours, the safety of others. That's all important.
Yeah.
And 2 doctors and a social worker can complete this form, and this form will forbid someone from inheriting a will, leaving the country, applying for a passport, instructing a solicitor, voting. I'm not joking, you are not a citizen, technically, in the eyes of the law, once you're under this.
This one says assessment.
Now, this is a kind of getting to know you kind of section.
Right.
Like. I mean, this section, section 2, notice it's got nothing about treatment. You can treat if you need to, but the essence of this is assessment. In other words, you've got 28 days to get to know them, to get to know why they've come to you, what their biological rhythms are like, their eating, their sleeping, their thinking, their feeling, what's been happening to them in the last few months. In other words, how did it all come to this? Welcome to Tube Ward. This is an acute adult open
ward, right.
No locks on the doors here where people can come and go, depending upon their legal status, of course. And this is pretty much it. It's a mixed ward, 16 beds. Every single patient has a room of their own. This is the modern equivalent of the Victorian asylum.
Well, it's like a student's, kind of JCR type thing. It's got a bar football and a television and institutional-ish sofas, but
What is perhaps unlike a student is the kind of stuff that goes on in here. I mean, you wouldn't believe it, but these walls see more than their fair share of shrieking and despair in their time than most walls do.
I've never been inside a psychiatric ward before, so that was rather reassuring. But it must still be a harrowing moment for the family and friends of a manic depressive when they feel they have to put a loved one inside. An old friend spent years as a psychiatric nurse watching that struggle.
Did you regard it as a very serious step to section people?
Oh, I think it's a hugely serious step to section people. Obviously, the vast majority of people who are hypermanic or in a manic phase of a bipolar illness, what they don't have is insight into their illness and behaviour. And that's obviously why sections were originally invented, was to be able to keep someone safe when their natural instinct, because of their illness, would not be to do it themselves, So the vast majority of people you talk to who have been sectioned will say to you, I've got absolutely no idea why I was sectioned, I was perfectly all right, And then you find out they were sort of hanging out of a window by one hand, naked, kind of, I remember we had one young woman brought in once, and what she'd done was she'd gone to a multi-storey car park and she jumped from the roof of one car to another, and she completely totaled about 70 or 80 cars. And she'd loved it, as you would, wouldn't you? There she was as high as a kite, she was laughing, in this kind of manic sort of gothic her way. But they're trailing along, her poor, quiet, sort of elderly parents. What the hell do we do, And a lot of the time in those particular sort of manic phases, it's the families you feel sorry for, because they're the ones that have to cope with the fallout of all the damage, emotional and physical, that their relative does.
But the remarkable thing is that we contain it. I mean, it sounds kind of daft, but I think it is a heroic place. It's secure in the sense of it being a sanctuary. The old-fashioned meaning of the word asylum. It's a place to go when you're having a really, really, really bad time. We take people in, like who've doused themselves with petrol, who have tried jumping off of flats, who've taken vast amounts of paracetamol, who do not want to live anymore. And we bring those people in, and I would say that 9.5 out of 10 punters leave here happy and well. Now, if that isn't a result, I don't know what is. Pessimism has always dominated our thinking about mental illness. It's just like the ghost of stigma reinventing itself as despair in this particular case. The idea is nothing you can do. Well, that's complete nonsense.
Both Joe and Mark Salter, nurse and doctor, believe sectioning can help manic depressives. But I also want a patient's view. Bethlehem Psychiatric Hospital in London gave the world the word Bedlam, the place for lunatics. Liz Miller knows this place well. She was sectioned here twice when her mania went out of control. Does she think being locked up with other mentally ill people helped her to recover?
The first time I was sectioned, I was in my flat with a couple of friends cooking supper. It was part of my mania, was driven by kind of fear and anger. And there was a knock on the door, and it's just like KGB calling, and there was a policeman, a social worker and a GP, and they'd come to get me. It's the paranoid world I was living in. I knew they'd come and get me, and they did.
Did you resist physically?
Yes, I did.
So you got a quick injection, presumably?
Well, at that point it's the police, and basically they overpower you and handcuff you.
So does this bring back memories? That's your
yes.
That's your loony wing there.
It does actually, yes. And so it does make a cold shudder.
Was it very secure and all locked?
Yes, we all had our own room. Saying you can't make a phone call, you can't tell anybody where you are, you don't have money. It was a week before I had a toothbrush. They inject forcibly for the first
With
days.
antipsychotics?
Antipsychotics and lithium as well.
Right. And did they help? I mean,
I don't. Yes, I think they did. I think in the acute psychosis they sedate you sufficiently so that the brain can begin to put things back together normally.
All told, Liz Miller was sectioned 3 times and spent a year in psychiatric wards. Looking back, she feels sectioning was a turning point. She now lives and works without taking medication and feels strongly that she has found another way to treat her manic depression.
The psychiatric model, it says you've got this condition and you've got it for life, and keep coming back, keep taking your tablets. And there isn't a way to help people actually get back to normal.
so many people I've spoken to already who suffer from bipolar disorder, manic depression, whatever one wants to call it, just would not, they believe, be anywhere without their medication.
Your medication is like the trainer wheels on a bicycle. They're there to kind of help you get on that middle path. But when you've learnt what it's like to lead a relatively normal, sane life, then you shouldn't or don't necessarily need those trainer wheels.
Don't need the wheels, yeah. So you genuinely believe, though, that diet has a big part to play in mental health?
I think it's the foundation.
The foundation?
Absolutely. I think if somebody isn't physically healthy and the brain is a physical organ, then you can't expect to be healthy.
Right. You have this theory about omega-3s, which are more present in oily fish, aren't
You
they?
actually need to have omega-3 molecules in order to get good membranes for your brain cells in order for them to function properly.
And supplements are as good?
Yes, well, I think they are, yes.
So cod liver oil, that sort of thing?
Yes, cod liver oil, flaxseed oil, hemp seed oil.
And you take a lot of these things?
Yes, I do. Oily fish whenever I can, whenever it's on the menu. And I take every day 3 grams of cod liver oil.
And you're pretty sure that your decision not to go on medication, but to do other things we talked about, like slowing your life down, and this kind of attention to things like omega-3s, is part of your being able to cope?
Absolutely, yes.
What makes Liz's views even more interesting is that she's a doctor. She left university as the best young neurosurgeon in Britain. It was 6 months after that she was first sectioned.
Right, and you've got an MRI on the 20th?
Yes, I'm on a waiting list for cancellation.
Despite sectioning, Liz was never struck off. She returned to work as a GP, but just part-time to help her control the stress. I want to know if it was, or indeed still is, difficult to get work.
It's difficult to know. We've a long way to go till mental health is just accepted as part of every day, part of the rich tapestry of life. Certainly a few years ago I would have said definitely that one wouldn't get the job.
Have you ever actually held back details on your past?
I have. Certainly in the early days I lied unscrupulously and I recommended other people to lie. The situation's changed in the last 5-6 years, and because of the Disability Discrimination Act, the Disability Discrimination Act actually makes it unfair to discriminate against someone on the grounds of mental health problems. And the practice that I was working in general practice, it's almost like I'm their token loon. I'm their proof that they have a modern approach to medical care. They've got one of their own.
As both doctor and patient, Liz is convincing. But Liz says when she talks to psychiatrists about how she has a job and manages her manic depression, no medication, special diet, less stress, they're reluctant to believe her. Wait and see, you'll have another episode. Well, for 15 years, she hasn't. I, on the other hand, as you know, do have episodes, not breakdowns as in 1995, but sufficient to worry those around me.
The QI dates at last, we've got them all.
Oh,
so
have we?
do you want to put those in?
My sister Jo helps look after my work schedule, admittedly one that would horrify Liz Miller. But I can't seem to live life part-time. I have to work hard, even at the cost to my family.
Then Prepare to Scream, probably the heaviest, 15, 16 and 17.
Bloody hell.
I know.
I can't go to New York on Friday, and I could go on Saturday and Sunday and come back on Tuesday, couldn't I?
Manic depressives are notorious for just going with their moods and not treating their illness seriously enough until it's too late. Ellie Oakes was a director of finance at B&Q, a high flyer, but she also had manic depression, except she wouldn't admit it, not to anyone, not even herself. As a result, Ellie took no medication. Her symptoms got worse, and eventually she lost her job, her marriage, and nearly her children. I want to see her because of the individual way she's turned her life around. With an accountant's eye for spreadsheets, she began to keep a mood diary.
See, when I first did this graph, I was surprised that it looked like this, because I just kind of take each one as it comes. I don't think about it.
You rate from 0 to 3 your mania, and from 0 to -3 your depression. So 0 is, as it were, a stable mood. And the highest it goes to is 2, I notice. It peaks at 2. 3 you would regard as unmanageable, as dangerous?
Complete dangerous, I think. Yeah, I mean, dangerous to myself, yeah.
And to the happiness of the family,
absolutely.
And to the peace and everything else.
What Ellie means is when high, she loves to spend and spend, forgets what she's left burning on the cooker, sleeps 4 hours a night for 8 weeks, and has the energy to update her new company website at 3 in the morning. But when she's done, she can't get out of bed.
A lot of sleep, so we're getting up to 17 hours a day. And I just have to. I can't do anything about it.
17 hours a day.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
The cat would be proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
No wonder partner Paul takes a close interest in how her moods are developing.
And when she's being creative and it bubbles just into the 1 out of 3 of that scale, then it's manageable. If it starts going above that, then we intervene.
Right. With drugs, with medication?
With medication, or initially we'll say, right, okay, stop, start stepping back, start relaxing, start working less hours. And sometimes it works. Sometimes you can actually take the illness and work with it so it doesn't get any higher.
And is she sometimes resistant? Is she enjoying the mania so much she doesn't want to?
Yes. And sometimes well, look, I need you to take that tablet just so it doesn't go too high, can be a threat. I don't want to take it. And then you have to have the argument.
When we think of mental health, we think of, men in white coats. Has it ever come close to that?
We've reached a situation where we've accepted we couldn't cope at home. And Ellie had to go into hospital. There was no chance of her getting well on her own without support and specialist support. So at that stage, had to go into hospital. Yeah. And that was, at that stage, for 10 weeks.
Wow. How long ago was that?
That was 2 years.
2 years ago. So the children were all, aware that Mum was ill.
Yes.
And how did you explain it to them?
Mum is ill, she has to go into hospital, and the children would say, why?
It's difficult being a mummy sometimes because you feel guilty about it. And you feel like you should be, you should be normal and be sensible and responsible and
sleep
like
8 hours a day.
You can be sensible and you are normal.
Right, okay.
Exactly.
Part of you. I couldn't imagine you without it.
How many mums do you see drawing pictures, painting, bead making, jumping up and down, running around, making jokes?
When I'm in those times when I have ideas and I want to do things, they don't get fed up with it.
It's like someone's got like a special voice. That's a gift. This is just like a special voice, but better.
Ah.
All personalities are balanced out by something. Yeah. And Mum's just happens to be that her creativity is balanced out by her going to sleep.
Yeah.
Does it touch you that they think you've got a gift?
I can't describe what that feels like. I just... It is really touching.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Ellie's mood diaries clearly let her see the big picture of her condition, and I'm impressed at how open she is with her family about her moods and behaviour. I've never mapped my own moods week by week, year by year. Perhaps that allows me to avoid seeing just how frequently they occur and how strongly they shape my life. An obvious manic sign for me, as it is for Ellie, is excessive shopping and spending. Now, psychiatrists encourage manic depressives to notice wild behaviour and then hold it in check. To that end, they not only offer drug regimes, but more and more psychotherapy. One talking therapy that they say proves useful is called CBT, cognitive behaviour therapy. It emphasises changing how we think about what we're doing. I've never tried it, but I've often worried about how I shop when I'm manic, so I've asked Jan Scott, an expert in CBT, to come and try to help me keep things under control.
I've probably got about 9 digital cameras. How many pictures do I take? None. Absolutely none. And you see now, here we've got sat-navs.
How many of those have you got?
I've got about 5 sat-navs. Digital DVD projector. That's an interesting thing to have, don't you think?
What people always tell us is it's that it is driven. It's almost like an addiction, that they don't feel able to stop it.
I think I have 12 computers. I must have something between 14 and 20 iPods.
I know a fair number of people are in for toys for the boys, but they don't have 14 iPods. They don't have 13 computers.
I tell you what it is. What you've discovered is that I'm insane. I'm actually mad. Good to see you. I'm really well. How are you? Oh, have you got the new Mac Mini? Yes, I'd love to. That's fantastic.
People do it and they feel even more stimulated, more excited about it, and it feeds into this desperate, vicious cycle. And so one of the things we try and do with people is to recognise it absolutely right at the start of when they're becoming hypomanic. I don't want to be a killjoy here.
Yeah.
Is this because you really want this?
No, this is really practical and sensible, believe me.
Yeah?
This is brilliant.
Because you've only got 12 at home.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. But you see, I'm beginning to sweat now.
Could you stop yourself?
Probably wouldn't. I mean, in the mid-80s, I had 11 motor cars. It is my treat, and I'm aware that even if it were irrational, the fact is I work so fucking hard that this is the few moments of pleasure I get.
Supposing somebody turned around and said, look, this is going to cause trouble if you do this. If you go home with this today, you know, it's going to be a bit of a fight on.
I would stab them in the throat with a pencil. You didn't stop me, did you?
Unlike in analysis where you might be trying to look at subconscious processes, you're actually trying to look at the thoughts that people have that are very prominent in their mind. And you can use that to look at how that influences their mood and their behaviours. You'd want to help people identify the risks of when they become a bit disinhibited and how they could handle that. Can you reduce the risks in a behavioural way? Can you change people's behaviours?
Jan tries hard with me, but I've had years of practice. Will I undergo a course of cognitive behaviour therapy? Not yet. I like giving my manic side full rein at times, although I recognise I'm lucky. I can afford my excesses. But I am interested in how cognitive therapy can be used with manic depression. When Jan tells me about a young girl in North London who wants help because the depressive side of her bipolarity is making her feel suicidal, I want to meet her.
Cordelia?
Hi.
How nice to meet you. I'm Stephen. Hello. Hi.
Teresa.
Teresa, you're Cordelia's mother, yes? Yeah. Very nice to see you all. Come in. I mean, that's what you say.
Yes.
Gosh, what a house.
Don't go down the steps.
The photos on the wall tell the early part of Cordelia's story. A clever girl at school, a photographic memory for learning, and a creative urge to write a novel at 14. Then Oxford. But that's where the symptoms began. A third of each month she'd be depressed, the rest manic. By the time of her finals, her memory had gone. After university, her condition worsened, and she was eventually hospitalised.
What's
If you want to look at the mood scale, it's in the kitchen.
Oh, I'd love to. 8, inflated self-esteem, rapid thoughts and speech, counterproductive simultaneous tasks.
Yeah.
Yes, I recognise
That's
that one.
about where I was when I was in hospital, about 8.
No, I think you were at 9.
I was not lost touch with reality. I was not paranoid and vindictive.
Cordelia's manic side frightens her mother.
Every time I go to the station to meet her, I remember the night that she didn't come home. I met every train, every hour, just hoping and hoping that she'd be walking down the steps, and she wasn't. She'd just allowed herself to get picked up by somebody in a bar, or she'd picked him up and she'd just gone back with a stranger for the night. Cordelia seems to be drawn to people who I wouldn't expect her to be drawn to, let's say. When I
think that she's getting a bit dangerous, I just don't let her out.
Right.
Or I go out with her.
It's going to get worse. This is the thing, Stephen. I am not going to be a lawyer or a doctor or something with my illness. I'm working part-time as an assistant at a literary agency. I've been an assistant for 4 years, and I'm doing a part-time MA. I cannot work full-time.
She depends on us for absolutely everything.
Do you seriously think then she can't cope without you?
I know she can't.
When we're left with Norman on his own, the story doesn't work for me, and I just found it quite depressing. And I was wondering if just I didn't get it.
Exist anymore in old England that doesn't fit.
Cordelia's fears about her future depress her.
That does come across.
But even worse is the effect her depression has on the one activity she loves, her writing. That's what she desperately hopes Jan Scott can help her with.
You've got this terrible problem that as soon as you slip a little bit below a normal mood state and you're depressed, your creativity disappears.
I suppose what I had thought is that when I was depressed, I would be able to write about being depressed, but I actually can't. I can't even write about being depressed when I'm depressed. I can't really write about anything. For about the first 5 or 6 years of having the illness, I wouldn't ever be depressed for more than a couple of weeks. Literally, last time and the time before, towards the end, when I'd been depressed for sort of 9 or 10 weeks, I just thought, I've never been depressed for this long before. I could never, this could be the one that I never come out of. I'm never going to be able to write again. I'm never going to be able to, go out and socialise again. I'm never going to be able to really do anything again.
I mean, what does it say about you if you can't write? What's going through your mind? Can you say it?
She's very upset. She's picked up her bag. She looks as if she wants to walk out now.
I find watching later, Jan talking Cordelia through her feelings, very moving. It's fascinating to see how Jan uses cognitive therapy to unpack the deeper emotions within Cordelia.
But the most important thing I felt here was that she was identifying something so fundamental to her view of herself. And there's a point at which she can't even say the words about how she feels about it. This issue of she had grown up being seen as exceptional, and she felt the illness had taken this away from her.
I don't mind a bit of weakness in other people, if it's sexy sort of weakness. I hate weakness in myself. I think of myself as very strong and glittery and shiny and funny.
Right.
The writing is something that I'm good at, and that.
So if you can't do that, that's the final straw.
Yeah.
Her self-esteem is partly tied up in her ability to be a writer, and she's had a lot of positive feedback about that in her past.
Yes.
And we've got to actually address that in terms of her beliefs.
Because otherwise
it becomes this vicious cycle,
self-loathing
and it becomes very dangerous because she potentially could become quite hopeless. And that makes people very vulnerable.
Generally thinking about suicide and death is not good for me at all. So that's why I don't want to.
With the stigma that still surrounds mental illnesses like manic depression, I thought Cordelia was very brave, allowing me to witness such a private moment. Like the others I've met, she was prepared to be seen and heard so that all of you know better about the illness we suffer. Just like me, Cordelia has come to accept that she has a chronic condition that will be with her for the rest of her life. That's a painful realization. But she also learned from Jan Scott that it's like having asthma, in that while it's always going to be there, the key for most people is in finding ways to reduce the attacks and to make them less severe. That's where treatment comes in. Cordelia accepts it, but what about me? After all I've seen and heard, I'm still unsure. I feel reluctant to embrace a life on medication, but I do fear the intensity of my moods and where they can lead.
as I say, I don't want to kill myself. I wouldn't mind dying. It's a terrible thing to say. And I hear myself and I think, oh my God, my mother's going to hear me say that. And I think, how awful, Stephen, what do you mean you wouldn't mind dying? It's a terrible thing to say. And all those who love me would say, what an awful thing to say. But a lot of them would say, yeah, I know that feeling too.
And yet, as with all bipolars, there is this other side. I love my condition too. It's infuriating, I know, but I do get a huge buzz out of the manic side. I rely on it to give my life a sense of adventure, and I think most of the good about me has developed as a result of my mood swings. In this journey, I asked many of my fellow manic depressives how they balance this contradiction. I asked them if they could press a button to release them from their bipolarity, would they do so? Most, despite traumatic moments in their life, said no. So after all this, what would I do?
I wouldn't press the button and live a normal life, not for all in China.